Hi, Jen.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
I am
Nice to
good.
meet you.
I am nervous. How are you?
Don't be nervous. This is gonna be fun.
It
Are
is.
you in right now, or where are you located right now?
I'm in New York right now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Where are you? You're in Park City, Utah?
Yeah, yep. You need to get out here. You'll love it. It's beautiful.
Uh-huh. I'd love to one day. I'd love to. I'd love to. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yes, no, thank you for having me.
Um, okay, yeah. I'm trying to set myself in. All right. Well, yeah, let's just jump into it. You today I'm having Jen Drummond on, and I'm kind of freaking out right now. I'm realizing because I've been looking forward to this for so long, and yeah, it's just incredible things that you do, and it's so inspiring, and I want to tell you that because it really means a lot to following along, and it inspires me with what I do. um so yeah. Um, do you wanna tell your story from like baby Jen? Um,
Okay,
5 to 10 minutes, or like, yeah, how long, and then we'll see from there.
okay, perfect. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I was born in Holland, Michigan, and I'm the oldest of three children. And so I think I was always hardwired to go get things done and be super energetic. I learned at a young age if I did sports, I didn't have to do chores. So I preferred to do sports all the time. So I was in gymnastics and tennis and sailing and volleyball and anything that could keep me out of the house and moving, which I'm very grateful for today. Um, I was an athlete most of my life. I was an exchange student when I was 16. I went to Sweden for a year, which was an
Oh,
amazing experience. Yeah.
wow.
So that trip like really got me interested in the world, right? Like I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh my goodness, there's more than my little neighborhood. Like I want to know what's out here and what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Um, I went to college, took a job in finance. I started my own company, which was in finance. After I worked a few years at a company, I started my own. And then I started having children. So I hired myself out of a job so I could be a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Um, and then when I was a stay-at-home mom, it was great for a while, but my kids started getting older and not really needing me as much.
Mm.
I was like, what do I do with myself? Like, there has to be more than this. And I had told myself, okay, once my kids get to college, then I'll get back to things that get me excited. But for right now, I'm a mom and this is like the game I'm in. And a couple like probably that same fall or winter, I got into a car wreck, right?
Mm.
So December 2018, I was in a horrific accident.
Mm.
Uh, we don't know how I walked away, let alone like we don't know how I survived and walked away. Like there's
Mm.
the police have rebuilt that accident a handful of times,
Yeah.
cannot build a scenario where I lived, let alone a scenario where I could walk. And
Wow.
that really changed my life, right? That was like, oh my goodness, I almost wasn't here anymore. What does that mean? Like, there are so many things I want to do and experience and try. And my life was almost over before it even really got to start.
Yes.
And that changed
Uh-huh.
me, right? Because all of a sudden it's like, hey, our life isn't forever. Like, we need to use this while we have it and
Yes.
like do things. Like, who cares what people think or say or whatever? Like, the
Yes.
only thing that you should listen to is like things that you want to do and let the world have their opinion. That's not your business.
Mm-hmm. I
And
was,
so I
yeah,
go
okay,
ahead.
continue. I
So
was wondering, sorry, how, like, how far has there gone from you feeling comfortable talking about that experience from it happening?
yeah, when
Like,
it first
uh-huh,
happened,
yeah,
I was just in shock. Like
yeah,
I couldn't even put words around it.
yeah,
Everything was magical, which I
uh-huh,
wish we could face, but somehow we are not allowed to.
Yeah.
Everything was magical. Like if my kid got in trouble, I didn't care. Because I was here to be there for him. I could give him a hug at the end of the day. Like
Mhm.
if I hit the red light at the stoplight, I used to get angry. I'm like, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is hitting red lights. Now I'm like, whatever, it's a red light. Like I'm here. Like life is good. Like life was so magic and everything was off for about 6 months
Mm.
because I was just so grateful I was here. If someone was mad at me, I'm like, okay, fine, be mad. Let's figure it out. We're good. Where before,
Mm.
I think I would have taken everything a lot more personable and I would have
Mm.
been a lot more thrown off and a lot
Mm.
more disappointed. Like
Yeah.
wasn't disappointed anymore. All of a sudden I was like, my choice is to be here for this moment or to not be here at all.
Yeah.
I'll take this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking about that picture you liked and commented on my Instagram with my dad. I lost my dad in 2016, and so coming back here to the US has just like it's reminded me of all the things that because he's been here, I've been here with family, and it's just like making my body kind of like go wild about all the things I want to do for
Yeah.
myself and like because of what you just said, it's all the things we realize that like life becomes really yeah, it changes when you have something like that happen.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that are listening, like it doesn't need to be a car crash. Okay. Like you can have it be your birthday. You can have it be the first of the year. You can have it be tomorrow. You can have it be today and just say like, this is changing. I declare it and start acting that way. For
Mm,
me, it needed to be a car accident to wake me up and like to get me
mm,
serious. But it doesn't have to be that crazy. Like take control now. Use my story to advance yours.
mm, yeah. When did you start finance and how did you get into that? You mentioned college.
Yes. So I got into finance. Funny story. A
Uh-huh.
friend of mine that graduated a year ahead of me took a job at this company. And he's like, hey, listen, Jen, I took this job at this financial company. I'm going to make a lot of money. You're expensive. You should consider working here. It'd be a really good job for you. And I thought, I am expensive. Maybe I should look at that company. And so I interviewed with them without really knowing a lot, and I got hired. I'm like, okay, I'm in finance. Like, this is what it's going to be. And it was the hardest job I'd ever done in my life, but
Mm,
also probably one of the best jobs I could have done because
mm,
I was not making smart financial choices. And when I worked at that company, I learned all about the power of money and compounding and saving and like all these things that
mm.
I didn't really know that has helped me throughout my entire life.
Right. What is not smart financial choices for you? Just like
Like I
some
would,
kind
yeah,
of
like I would buy
you know.
new purses, right? I
Right.
wouldn't have a savings account. I'd go out to dinner all the time. If I saw something, I'd put it on my credit card and be like, oh, I'll just pay for it later. And, just things like that. Where
Right.
once I started working for this financial company, I'm like, no credit cards. I'm saving for retirement. Anything left over, I could spend, but I'm not
Yeah.
spending today first. I'm taking care of my future first.
Right. So what does having a credit card mean to you? I'm curious about that because, well, I've grown up having a credit card, I think as a 13-year-old, and I had some money on it, but I also like to kind of use loose money. And I think it's throughout the past year that I realized how much of a change in perception, just like, I don't know, working around this, that they can change for us. Like before
Yeah.
we use money.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So for me with money, it's a lot harder to pay for expensive things with cash,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're like, oh, this is how many dollars it really is. And it makes you realize like how expensive something is. When you pay by a credit card, it doesn't matter if the item's $5 because you got a coffee or $500 because you bought something more expensive. Like it's the same transaction. So it kind of numbs you to the
Mm.
cost of things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, it was
Yeah.
always like, oh, I'll just pay it later. I'll just pay it later. And that's not a good way to live your life. Like debt is not a great way to build a future.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, yeah. I'm not having the same thing, but I'm realizing some other parts that I'm like, oh, okay. And I've kind of been thinking about. Um, how do you how is your perception on that and with mountaineering?
How is my perception with what?
Yeah, with investing in mountaineering.
I think it's very similar, right? Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
investing, you have this goal that is an uphill climb, right? Like you're not going to roll down a mountain if you want to get to the summit. You have to be intentional and you have to set money aside to financially reach the goal. You have to physically
Yep.
take one step up after another to physically climb the mountain. The mountain is always there. So whether you can see it or not because of bad weather or whatever, it's always there. So you need to be the consistent force as well. It takes looking at your mountain and your financial goals often to stay committed to it, because otherwise I think there's so many distractions that pull us away. So I think that helps. And
Right.
then, I just think it's very intentional living.
Yeah.
When you have an investment strategy or plan, you're being intentional with how you're doing your money. If you're going to climb a mountain, you're being intentional on how you spend your time, what you eat, how you train, and if you're ready to go.
Mm. Yeah. 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 You have you have played college soccer, and I was listening to another podcast where you described about how, and thank you for sharing it too. Um, um, where you describe how playing soccer is kind of helping you in what you do today with climbing.
Yeah.
And I was
So I think,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think soccer is such a great sport for so many other sports that you want to do in life. And it's because one, it's endurance, right? Like you have an hour and a half game. So that takes a lot out of your body to be able to exercise for an hour and a half straight.
Mm-hmm.
When you're playing soccer, you have moments of speed where you need to chase the ball down or push hard. And then there's moments when the ball is on the other side of the field and you can recover while you're still involved in the game. And when
Yeah.
you're climbing, there's sections that are punchy and hard. There's also sections that are a little more monotonous and don't take as much energy. The goal is to keep stepping forward. The goal is to keep playing the game. I love soccer when we went to the games because before we started the game, we had a ritual. This is the music that we listen to. These are the warm-ups that we do. And then when the whistle blew, it was the trigger to time to go. When I'm on the mountain, I very much keep a ritual as well so that my fear doesn't try to talk me out of it. And once I start doing my items in my routine, then it's like, okay, boots are tied up. Now it's time to go. Let's start hiking up this mountain.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Like that. I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, my pleasure.
Hmm. I was wondering about um how has um the period of time that you um I'm really nervous and kind of scared to ask this, but like the period of your lifetime where I guess you had kids, what has that taught you about life? Because I feel like when I hear sometimes on podcasts about people asking women about having kids, I can get really upset, honestly, and mad because I feel like it's not really like um taken care of in the way I feel like it should be. I feel,
Okay.
or like that. I don't know. I feel like sometimes we kind of like I don't know. How do you feel about that when I say that?
About my kids and climbing or having a kids during my life?
The way it's talked about, like woman having kids and career, all this together, because it's a tough theme. It's a vulnerable one.
Yeah, the minute you have children, the minute your heart is always going to be torn. Like, I mean, that's just the bargain that you sign up for,
Right.
because your heart is always going to want to be with them, and
Mhm.
your heart's going to want to be doing what you want to do. And there's going to be this push and pull your entire life, and you just learn to dance with that and understand that that's part of what happens when you have children. So I love being a mother. It's my favorite job that I have. But I also know that I'm here on this planet to do certain things that only
Right.
Jenn Drummond can do. And
Right.
so I balance my time of nurturing my like gifts and sharing them with the world, and nurturing my children so that they can step into their gifts to share with the world.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a perfect formula. I think we just try and work as we go and do the best we can. And what happens, happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like Brené Brown talks about, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Um, how do you feel like or what is 3 things that you have learned from college, or yeah, what is 3 things that you have learned from college that that you're taking into not practice, but just what are 3 things that you've learned from college? Would you say
Yeah.
that you're still finding the most valuable?
You can fail and still succeed. So I
Mm.
think in college, you realize I failed that test or I failed that quiz, but I showed up for all the other things, and I'm still getting a passing grade, or I'm still getting a B or maybe an A minus or something. So
Right.
it reminds me, like, anytime I run into failure or setbacks or I don't perform as well as I wanted to,
Yeah.
that's just that one thing. That one thing is part of a bigger thing. And so I'm allowed to fail and still succeed. I think anybody who's listening, that's a really important lesson to keep in mind. I also have learned that I'm allowed to pivot. I started college being pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor. Once I started taking the courses and understanding the time commitment and all the things that are involved to be a doctor, I realized that that really wasn't what I wanted to be. And I was allowed to take different courses and
Right.
reinvent myself and go down a different path. Anytime in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
like 44, 57, 32, 26,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. You're allowed to pivot and change the trajectory of your life based on what you know and what you feel and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the second lesson that I've learned from college.
Mm.
And then the third lesson I've learned from
Really.
college is, like, enjoy it. Like, we only get one chance at this life. And college, I took pretty seriously.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go back and do college again, I would have
Yeah.
way more fun. I'd be way crazier. I would do more things that I didn't even touch. I would have more fun. And so when I know that I would write that to my younger self,
Uh-huh.
I have to write my current self,
Right.
okay, I don't want to look back on these days and wish I had more fun. What can I
Right.
do today to add more fun to my life?
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh my goodness, I'm both.
You're both?
So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
isn't that
How
funny?
does
Like,
how
so
does that look?
if I'm on stage, I love speaking and inspiring, and I love the energy of
Right.
all the people and doing that. But when
Yeah.
then I'm done, I'm exhausted and
Mm.
I need to spend time by myself to recharge.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think I'm happiest when I'm with a bunch of people and we're doing this thing and we're trying to, like, inspire each other and make more possible. But I don't recharge in that environment. I actually need to go back by myself and recharge my batteries so I can continue to be out in the public.
I relate to a lot to that. That's interesting. You call that both introvert and extrovert?
I do. I
I've heard,
do.
okay. I've heard about these two there, like where you are Have you heard about the other kinds of introvert extroverts?
Have I what?
Have you heard about the other kind of introvert extroverts?
Tell me about it.
Oh, never mind then. I'm gonna ask you,
Okay.
what you mentioned about Sweden. You've been to Sweden. How also I actually wanted to ask you something else because I was noticing on your YouTube channel that you said that you have a hard time actually being on Zoom. And how do you feel about that right now?
Oh, being on Zoom?
Yeah, like having interviews because that can feel like very challenging, right? And I feel
Yeah,
that too when I'm like,
yeah. When
yeah,
I was doing Zoom interviews on my podcast,
right,
and then I would do in-person interviews.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the in-person interviews, I just loved so much more. I love the energy. I love the talking. I love the conversation before and all the little pieces. And then I
yeah,
realized I do better in person. So I changed up my podcast and I said, okay, I'm only going to do it in person.
all right,
And it took me a few months to get that pipeline built up and that structure in place to be able to only do it in person.
right.
But ever since I've done that, I'm so happy. I get so excited.
How
I
does
have a
this?
podcast.
Oh, sorry. You can continue.
No. I have a podcast recording day this Friday.
Yeah.
And so I normally do 2 podcasts, sometimes 3.
Uh-huh.
And I'll do 3 people that day and we'll get together. And it's just, I love it. I love the interaction. I love all of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How did you get it up and running? Like with because there's a lot of logistic and the camera and I mean all of that. It's a lot of things to set up.
Yeah. So when
You-
I go to other cities, so let's say like I'm going to Nashville soon. I'm
Yeah.
being hired to give a speech in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go interview people in this part of the country right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because they're in Nashville. And so I rented a studio in Nashville that comes with the camera and the audio tech person. And then people meet me at that studio. When I'm in Park City, I have a friend that's a phenomenal camera guy, an audio guy. And so he comes to my house and helps film the episodes from there.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah. So you kind of have that kind of flexibility in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What you've been to Sweden. I would love to hear more about that. How's it been for you to be in Europe?
Okay, well, who doesn't love Europe, right? Like
All right.
every part of Europe is magic. I've been all over Europe. I love every piece of it. It's just a slower lifestyle. It's a treasure lunch, treasure
Yeah.
dinner, go for long hikes, take a bike ride. Like everything is just so much more playful and in flow. So I love Europe.
That's interesting.
Yeah, when I was there in Sweden, I was young. I was 16. I was still trying to find myself and who am I and what am I like in this world outside of the bubble that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about myself like fixed character flaws and just works through some things and became a much better person and more focused on being a citizen of the world than a citizen of the United States. And I would say being an exchange student started that.
Okay. Yeah. How did your how did you feel like your parents supported or helped you in that field?
Yeah. So I got the lucky lottery. Like I have amazing parents. Do they make mistakes and was things
Awesome.
perfect?
We love that.
Absolutely perfect, right? Like nobody has a perfect childhood. But I had the perfect childhood for me. And I learned a lot about things of like who I wanted to be, who I didn't want to be. My parents always supported me 100%. I never had to defend what I wanted to do. So
Right.
that's been a big gift.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they were self-employed. So I knew what it was like to be an entrepreneur versus working in a company, which I think is a huge advantage for me. And I love that aspect. So yeah, I'm very grateful for my childhood.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, my dad, he worked as he was self-employed the last couple of years. So looking for me as a 50-year-old to look up to that the last couple of years that we had him here was really inspiring, and I learned a lot from that. I'm definitely taking into practice here the last couple of years.
Huh.
I'm sure that your kids also learn a lot from that, and it's really cool to see how you also bring some of them onto the podcast and talk.
Yeah. I love my kids. Like, I'm so lucky that I get to be their mom. Like, they just every day they just inspire me in so many ways. And it's fun to have conversations with them. I did a podcast with one of my daughters, and I've done a podcast with one of my sons. The other ones aren't interested right now, which is totally fine. They change their mind, I'm going to have them on, but it's up to them.
How is it having a conversation like that on the podcast? Does that feel frightening or like just down to earth, or because I feel like for me when I have my girlfriend or friend, that feels different than, to me at least, than to when I'm having you on or whoever else. Yeah.
For sure. And for me, like, the biggest thing when it's your child is making sure that you're honoring their privacy and their story, and not having the cameras put pressure on them that they feel they need to share something they're not ready to share. So for me, it's been super fun to explore topics that they're comfortable talking about. And we usually talk about those topics ahead of time so that they feel confident in what's going on. And then anytime we pre-record. So if something goes on that they're like, hey, I don't want to talk about this, we cut it out, right? Like, that's totally fine. But I love sharing their insight because they're so full of so many golden nuggets. Like, it's so fun to see the world through their lens.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. What is the things that you have learned from like being on TV?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with being on TV is just always being in a modality of serving. Like, I'm on TV not for me. I'm on TV for the audience. I'm on TV for who's watching, and what can I say or do that helps them with their lives. And so anytime I'm on an appearance, I'm always trying to think, okay, this is an opportunity. This is a platform that's being shared with me. How do I use this platform to benefit those that are listening? And that really helps me get out of my nerves, because it's not about me. I'm just like the person that the message gets to flow through.
Right. Did you have that same perspective to it when you started doing TV?
I was so nervous on TV at first, right? Because I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what happens if I mess up, or, all the things. But I think we're all nervous when we start something new.
Yeah.
But after I did my first one, I like watched the tape, I reviewed everything. I'm like, okay, I got this. We're good from here on out. So my first few interviews were not awesome. I think I do pretty good nowadays.
Yeah, it's inspiring. It's really inspiring.
Thank you.
It's really, to see, I mean, both the way that your website and your YouTube, your Instagram, and also just because in my preparation to this, I've been looking at, of course, a lot of the clips that where you are on TV and how you set up like the structure from your book and put it into on the TV, like the ways, the things that's like, for example, building a habit of something. And is that something that you I guess you communicate that with the people that you work with, right? Obviously. Yeah. How does that kind of work when you're in preparation for that?
Probably like much like how you're in preparation for a podcast guest, right? So if I know that I'm going to be on a television show, I'll watch that show. I'll watch the anchors or the host. I'll look at their Instagram to see what they're interested in, to see if we have any common hobbies or habits.
Right.
I will look at what their audience demographics are to make sure that my message is hitting on point to their demographics. And I look at what they're wearing so I can wear a complimentary outfit. And I just very much take the opportunity and how do I make this easy for the host? And how do I add value? And so I do my research. I role play some different questions that I think they might ask based on other people that they've asked questions to. And I put myself in a situation to succeed as best as I can.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, I think I want to round it off. It's been it's been an honor to have you on, Jenn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do, if I can say one thing that I'd love
Yeah.
to share.
Yeah.
I have one more climb left for
Yes.
Guinness World Records to honor my climb.
Uh-huh.
And the climb is going to happen in September of this year at the end of the month. So September, October. And we're doing this fun campaign where we're raising money for backpacks and to bring awareness to this climb.
I love
And so if people are listening and they want to be a part of setting history and setting a Guinness World Record with me, be sure to check out my website, jendrummond.com. And you'll find some information about how you can participate. We're going to carry a big flag up to the top of the last mountain, and people who help, we're going to have their names on the flag.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know, I'm super excited.
Wow.
Yes.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your for the energy and telling your story. I really, really appreciate that, Jenn. Yeah. Thank you
Sounds
for
good.
coming on again. And yeah, let's make it that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna text you about the recording and when it will be out and that.
Okay.
Yes, awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Thank you. You too, Jenn. Bye.
Bye.